Kumar, Saurav Ganguly was on this show earlier, a couple of weeks back during his birthday, and he made this point that end of the year India travels to Australia for what he calls, quote, a milestone series. And I in fact asked him, you are saying this is more important than the World Cup for Virat Kohli? And he said, yes, I think so, because this is real legacy. And he goes on to say he expects Virat Kohli's team to be really competitive and challenge Australia. He wants India to desperately win. How are you looking at that particular series? Virat Kohli versus Steve Smith, India going down under again. The whole cricket world will be looking at that series, India v Australia. How are you looking at that?
I think it'll be an extremely exciting series. We saw what Virat and his team did before in Australia. They made history. They were extremely competitive, extremely fired up to deliver on something that was highly important to not just Virat personally, but to Indian cricket as a whole. And this time around, it's going to be much tougher. Australia has really progressed from where they were at that particular time to the team that they are now. And I'm really looking forward to a very, very intense contest. Both sides will be all out to ensure that, that they win the series. Individual players will have their own battles. Virat Kohli will like to leave his mark in terms of cricket history in trying to win a second series in Australia and having his performance at the peak. You have Stephen Smith, you have Mitchell Starc. You have, an Australian team that is very, very hungry to keep making the statement that they are the best in the world in any condition against any side.
Kumar, without saliva on that kookaburra, do you think that will have any major impact? I mean, does that change the equation a little bit? Both sides have really good fast bowlers and swing bowlers. What kind of impact? I mean, from what you've seen so far, Jimmy Anderson, some of the test matches in England, what is the kind of impact you are gauging the new rules are having on the game?
Well, it's still too early to really say that the Duke's ball is slightly different to the Kookaburra ball, and each one behaves differently in their own conditions. The Kookaburra ball does need a lot of effort to keep the shine, at a premium right throughout a game. But then, of course, you will have the emergence of natural reverse swing perhaps a lot quicker. Bowlers will have to adapt in terms of maybe even combinations of the side. Do we play one spinner or two spinners? And what sort of bowling and what sort of conditions will really make these rule changes effective in terms of delivering victories for their side?
My last few minutes on the show, Kumar. So let me ask you an IPL question once more. I mean, the IPL so far has been also about fans. I mean, the moment a wicket falls, the broadcaster immediately cuts to the fans, chock-a-block stadiums, people sort of loving every moment of the action. As a commentator, and here I'm assuming you will be part of the world feed, you will commentate because we want to hear you. How difficult will it be for you as a commentator to sort of keep that momentum going? Or how do you think the players will react to it? Do you think it can eat into the IPL, or do you think because people are starved, like we are all starved in India waiting for the IPL, there will be an enormous consumption of this tournament on television this year the moment it is launched, or even the dates are announced and finally when the first ball is bowled?
It's been an interesting thing to see really and be a part of. Like I said before, the connection between the fans, the players, the commentators at a ground, and each one feeding off each other's energy is such an important part of conveying the buzz around the ground to someone who's watching 1,000 or so miles away. And that dynamic will change for sure. But then again, as professionals, all the stakeholders have to raise their games, lift themselves up, and still create that buzz in and around the game so that spectators watching on TVs and their smart devices are continuously engaged and deliver a product of premium and high quality. Yes, everyone will understand that it is going to be a different spectacle in terms of the seats being empty. There is a very, very good reason for that. And at the same time, I think this is also a very good time to connect cricket and cricketers and its stakeholders to actually what is happening in the world today. How this pandemic has affected people's lives, how it has affected economies and social connections, how it has impacted upon our healthcare professionals who day in, day out have to really, fight, risking their own safety and their own lives to save other people's lives, to understand how responsible we are as people, not just cricketers, for each other, and the contribution that we can make in our own way as sports persons around the world being involved in this wonderful game, back to society, back to those health professionals, back to our societies that really need a boost, back to disadvantaged communities that need a helping hand, back to our own countries that need energy and an input of vibrancy to restart economies and lives